If you are a power player, a challenge taker, driven to perform with a passion for excellence, a visionary with dreams for the future, elevate your life with People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
In a few moments, the news.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is precisely 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Romesh Piris and read by Chandima Veerakon. Headlines. The new report on delimitation handed over to the Prime Minister. The World Bank assures continuous support to Sri Lanka's economic revival. The Minister of Justice says that it is the responsibility of the government to look after the welfare of imprisoned inmates. The Election Commission to meet once again to discuss the conduct of the impending local authorities election. The Ministry of Agriculture urges farmers to sell their maize stocks harvested during the Maha season promptly. The Health Promotion Bureau cautions the general public that influenza cases on the rise. On international news, Philippines and the US start the largest ever annual military drills. In sports news, IPL 2023, Lucknow Super Giants beat Royal Challengers Bangalore by 1 wicket on the final ball. Local stories in detail. The new report of the Delimitation Committee was handed over to Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena this morning. The document, which contains details of the votes and the map of the local councils, was handed over by the chairman of the Delimitation Committee, Mahinda Deshapriya. A 5-member National Delimitation Committee was appointed in November 2022 for the demarcation of wards for local authorities. The committee, chaired by the former election chief, comprises Mr. Jayalath R.V. Dissanayaka, Mrs. W.M.M.R. Adhikari, Mr. K. Thavalingam, and Mr. I.A. Hamid. It was appointed in a special gazette notification published by Prime Minister Gunawardena in his capacity as the Minister of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government. The World Bank has assured to continuously support to stabilize Sri Lanka's economy. The matter was discussed during a meeting between State Minister of Finance Shahan Semasinghe, who is currently in Washington to attend the 2023 spring meetings of the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund, and Managing Director of Operations of the World Bank, Anna Bajad. State Minister Semasinghe said he discussed the Sri Lanka's reform agenda and its benefits towards economic recovery. He further said the World Bank will continuously support Sri Lanka to strengthen social safety nets and economic stabilization. Minister of Justice Wijayadasa Rajapaksa says that it is the government's responsibility to take care of imprisoned inmates, regardless of the severity of the offence they have committed. Speaking at an event held in the Ministry of Justice, the lawmaker stated that the inspection committees should take measures to provide additional welfare facilities for prison inmates apart from the facilities facilitated by the government. Furthermore, the minister highlighted the measures that have been taken to amend the country's prison ordinance in a humane manner for the first time since 1934, adding that 6 units have been established within the existing prisons to rehabilitate the death row inmates. Minister Rajapaksa noted that nearly 8,000 out of 26,000 individuals imprisoned in all prisons across the country have thus far been found guilty. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
Continuing with the local stories, the National Election Commission is scheduled to convene once again today to discuss the conduct of the impending local authorities election. The Commission initially announced that the local authorities election will be held on the 9th of March. However, it was rescheduled due to delay in printing ballot papers and lack of funds. The Commission then announced that the polls will take place on the 25th of April. The Commission held several rounds of discussions to conduct the election. Meanwhile, the Election Commission yesterday met Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, who is also the Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government, to discuss the election delay. Following the meeting between Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and members of the National Election Commission yesterday, State Minister Wak Kumbura said, according to the present situation, the election will not be held on the 25th of this month. The Health Promotion Bureau has cautioned the general public to take adequate precautionary measures since the number of persons suffering from influenza has shown a steady increase. The Bureau said the disease hits the respiratory system and therefore affects the expectant mothers, young children and the elderly. The Bureau added that the healthy person who is infected will recover naturally after 3 to 4 days. Main symptoms of the disease include high fever, muscle and joint pain, runny nose, sore throat and phlegm. Accordingly, the general public has been requested to take all precautionary measures, especially when leaving outdoors during the festive period. To end the local news, the headlines again. The new report on delimitation handed over to the Prime Minister. The World Bank assures continuous support to Sri Lanka's economic revival. The Minister of Justice says it is the responsibility of the government to look after the welfare of imprisoned inmates. The Election Commission to meet once again to discuss the conduct of the impending local authorities election. The Ministry of Agriculture urges farmers to sell their maize stocks harvested during the Maha season promptly. The Health Promotion Bureau cautions the general public that influenza cases on the rise. That ends local news.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On the main news story, the Ministry of Agriculture has urged farmers to sell their maize stocks harvested during the Maha season promptly. The ministry said due to the prevailing shortage, the government is planning to resume importing maize. It also noted that farmers have been retaining their maize stocks in anticipation of another price hike. The ministry said, however, if the government resume imports, the price of maize will reduce considerably. It added, therefore, the farmers should capitalize on the current price increase and sell their harvest. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight. The Department of Immigration and Emigration has issued a special statement regarding the submission of applications to obtain passports. Issuing a statement, the Controller General of the Department of Immigration and Emigration has requested individuals who have received appointments to submit applications tomorrow for passports, Wednesday the 12th of April, to the Passport Office before noon, tomorrow the 12th of April. That ends Watchlight. We move on to the world news now. The headlines. Philippines and the US start largest ever annual military drills. Italy moves to rescue 1,200 people on boats. G20 finance heads face reforms calls from Global South. The United States and the Philippines have begun their largest ever military drills, which will include a live fire exercise on a sunken ship in the South China Sea. More than 17,000 soldiers are taking part in the annual event known as Balikatan, with about 12,200 American troops, 5,400 members of the Philippines Armed Forces, as well as representatives from other countries including Australia. Balikatan means shoulder to shoulder in Tagalog. The latest Balikatan exercise are getting underway as China concludes 3 days of military drills around Taiwan. The Italian Coast Guard is carrying out 2 large-scale operations to rescue around 1,200 migrants from overcrowded boats off the coast of Sicily. About 800 people are traveling on one of the fishing boats, while around 400 are on another. The country's Coast Guard has already rescued around 2,000 people in other operations since Friday. At least 2 people died during the weekend's boat crossings. Migrant arrivals to Italy have risen steeply compared with the same period last year, despite efforts by the right-wing coalition government to clamp down on irregular migration. The guardians of the global economy are meeting at the International Monetary Fund this week to discuss a daunting set of challenges slowing global growth, banking sector vulnerability, and growing calls for multilateral reform. Alongside the IMF's annual spring meetings with the World Bank in Washington, D.C., finance ministers and central bank governors of the Group of 20 or G20 will meet on April 12th to 13th. While problems facing the global economy will be at the top of the agenda, tensions related to the war in Ukraine may make it difficult to produce an agreed plan of action. To end the world news, the headlines again. Philippines and US start the largest ever annual military drills. Italy moves to rescue 1,200 people on boats. G20 finance heads face reforms calls from Global South. That ends the world news.
Development news.
And on development news, in a bid to attract more tourists to the destinations in the central region, including Nuwara Elia, the old railway track will be reconstructed from Nanu Oya to Udapusalawa via Nuwara Elia to operate an electric train. Transport, Highways and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena disclosed that this railway line, which is 31 kilometers in length, is to be reconstructed under build, operate and transfer model. The minister was speaking at a ceremony held in Nuwara Elia to hand over 26 buses to SLTB depots in the Nuwara Elia district. He said this line consists of a number of railway stations, including the Kandapala station, which is the 6th highest railway station in the world. The minister was of the view that there is vast potential for the development of the tourism industry in this region. That ends development news. On to the sports news. It's cricket IPL 2023. Nicholas Pooran hit the fastest 50 of the 2023 Indian Premier League as Lucknow Super Giants beat Royal Challengers Bangalore by 1 wicket. The Trinidadian hit 62 of 19 balls, reaching his half-century of just 15 balls before being caught in the deep. Lucknow clinched victory on the final ball after Harsha Patel failed with an attempt Mankad dismissal. Bangalore had posted 212 for 2 with Virat Kohli, Fawad du Plessis and Glenn Maxwell all hitting half-centuries. Lucknow moved top of the IPL table with 3 wins from 4 matches. That ends sports news.
Go ekathiana youth kat life ke change kat niyamata set na as wahagena dag pugina habe karana youth kat niyamata set na friendship ekamenna.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
And on business news, the opening of the Sirasara Shilpa 2023 Industrial and Marketing Exhibition to showcase the creative skills of prison inmates took place yesterday at Diyata Uyana in Battaramulla. The exhibition will showcase 18 creative stalls of inmates today and tomorrow. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go එකක් තියන youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Taking a look at economic news, the provisional data from the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority showed the tourist arrivals to Sri Lanka were recorded at 26,912 in the first week of April. For the first 7 days of April, the daily arrival average is 3,844, which is a dip when compared with the average 4,000 that was witnessed in March. Accordingly, the cumulative tourist arrivals for the January 1st to April 7th period stand at 362,519. After several months, India emerged as the largest tourist traffic generator for Sri Lanka, surpassing the Russian Federation, which held the position since the island nation opened for tourism after the COVID-19 pandemic. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Department of Meteorology predicts showers or thunder showers at a few places in the western, Sabragamua, central, southern and northwestern provinces during the afternoon or at night. The Met Department said a few showers may occur in the Batticaloa and Trincomalee districts. Meanwhile, the general public has been requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. The Met Department added that due to the apparent northward relative motion, the sun will be directly over Kalpitiya, Dunupotagama, Nikavawa, Somavati Temple and Varugal at around midday today. That ends the weather report. And to end this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The new report on delimitation handed over to the Prime Minister. The World Bank assures continuous support to Sri Lanka's economic revival. The Minister of Justice says it is the responsibility of the government to look after the welfare of imprisoned inmates. The Election Commission to meet once again to discuss the conduct of the impending local authorities election. The Minister of Agriculture urges farmers to sell their maize stocks harvested during the Maha season promptly. The Health Promotion Bureau cautions the general public that influenza cases on the rise. On news overseas, Philippines and the US start the largest ever annual military drill. In sports news, IPL 2023, Lucknow Super Giants beat Royal Challengers Bangalore by 1 wicket on the final ball. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.